Good morning. That was beautiful.
Morning.
Sometimes we need a few tears. We need to get some of our emotions out of our chest and out of our heart and out of our head, so that we can get on with living our life today. I want to acknowledge ministers in training, Cherie and Stephen and Beth and Reverend Valentine, and all the Harmony members and friends and guests. Today's topic is happiness. Under the caption, Fewer Better Things, we read, our lives are full of things, disposable distractions, stuff you buy but do not cherish, own but never love, things thrown away or tossed aside in weeks rather than passed down for generations. Perhaps things will be different now, wiser choices made with greater care. After all, if the fewer things you own always excite you, would you really miss the many that never could? Well, it was an ad for diamond jewelry, and inside of the same publication was an article entitled, Holding On to Happiness in Hard Times. The subtitle promised that with economists projecting a gloomy Christmas and an even gloomier 2009, new research offers clues into how a dispirited nation, that's us, the U.S., can hold on to some optimism. It is asked, is there a cure for the blues? I just might mention here that the science of happiness, satisfaction in everyday life is termed positive psychology, and it was started by a PhD researcher named Martin Seligman about 10 years ago. And it's interesting that psychology was first about pathology, and after a while, people began to realize that there were people that saw the good things in life, and so researchers began studying that and how we get to that. The short answer to what makes us happy is each other, our fellow humans. We're social beings. After that comes material well-being, shelter, food, clothes, career, approval. Not mentioned here, health, adequate sleep, intellectual stimulation in the form of education, books, conversations with people who stimulate us to think and appreciate the things we do and have. And of course, our spirituality, which I'll talk about later. Well, we've all heard that money can't buy happiness, but certainly neither can poverty. And in fact, poverty is a leading indicator of unhappiness, both in people and in nations. With the recent economic downturn, perhaps we should look at how money affects happiness. We can look at the question on different levels. On the individual or personal level, as was already said, we need adequate shelter to feel safe. Our bodies need food, enough sleep, human contact, a satisfying relationship. Most of us need gainful employment, or at least the knowledge or feeling that we make a difference to someone else. On the level of the family unit, there needs to be enough resources to support all members of the family. And by resources is not just meant material things. People need to be in a nurturing environment. Children need to grow up feeling loved and validated, something that money cannot buy. And by not having adequate resources goes a long way toward stabilizing the relationship of those who are raising children. But having adequate resources goes a long way. And even as I say that, I realize that there are plenty of more well-off parents who have single family households and who love and have a capacity to give and share. So it's more about that than it is about our portfolios or how much we have in the bank. The bottom line is that even if in the U.S. our wealth has grown in the last few decades, our level of happiness has not. A recent statistic said that 75% of the adults in the U.S. are on some level of sleep deprivation. Happy people don't lie awake worrying. In response to the question of whether we can increase our level of happiness, we look at the discipline of positive psychology for the answer. Some things that are cited include striving for mindfulness, living in the moment, recognizing the beauty of nature, and appreciating the positive aspects of our lives. I don't know if any of you all saw Dr. Amen on the WEDU special. It's been a few weeks ago. He's a psychiatrist and a brain researcher, and he offered 12 prescriptions for a healthy brain. One involved gratitude. And remember, Reverend DJ always says, if the only prayer you ever say is thank you, it will be enough. Dr. Amen's prescription was each morning to make a list of 5 things you're grateful for, and then throughout the day to meditate on the things on your list that day. With regular practice, his promise was an increase in your state of happiness in 3 weeks. Some other research-proven effective ways of attaining happiness include optimism, and I always look to Abraham when I think of optimism, and the Abraham Hicks material. If any of you are not familiar with that, you can Google it or ask me and I can tell you more about it. Spirituality, and for me that's harmony. Giving and generosity, that's philanthropy, volunteerism. Clean out your closets and give to a favorite charity. Altruism, community service, and I think of Pepito's wonderful photography project that he does every year with the homeless at Christmas time. And work or hobby, and the importance of being in a flow state. And all of these are ways of attaining happiness. The bottom line is to do something. It increases your self-esteem. Well, the best has been saved for last, spirituality. What constitutes a practice that contributes positively to our spiritual dimension as humans and brings us happiness? We would say these things. A community practice, and that's traditionally like a Sunday service. A solitary practice, meditation or prayer. Tenets that resonate with you. We believe in the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man, and our other affirmation tenets that we just said a few minutes ago. Rituals that bring a sense of peace, that have the power to release you from your everyday challenges, even if for a while. And morality, living in accordance with what makes you a happier person. An egalitarian belief system, and I think of the prayer of attunement. And when I first heard that, that's the one we open our service with, it just touched my heart in such a way, and I memorized it just within a few months. Something that's free and not fear-based, and is the foundation for how one actually lives life or the goals toward which we strive. I'm not going to repeat that here, but you all know it. You can read it in the front of your Wings of Song hymnal. You probably noticed that all these prescriptions for happiness involve our attitudes, beliefs, and ways of being in the world. No one can make another's attitudes, ways, or beliefs or ways of being in the world. No one can make another person happy. They may please you. They may create the space or opportunity for fun or delight. But you are in charge. We are all in charge of our own happiness. Abraham reminds us that if one person has to do one thing differently in order for us to be happy, we may be in a world of hurt. Because even if they do it this time, they may not the next. And no, not everyone is going to meet our demands anyway. That goes for material possessions as well as people and relationships. Happiness is an inside job. Here's a quote from Michael Beckwith in his new book entitled Spiritual Liberation. And it's a good affirmation that we can all say. Right here and right now, I acknowledge myself as an ever-evolving being and surrender to the transforming touch of spirit. Throughout this day, I have dominion over my consciousness and happiness. Patience and forgiveness and loving kindness are the order of my day. Now, doesn't that make you happy? Kadosh. Now, if you'll all get quiet, put your feet together on the floor flat, and we're going to go into our meditation session.